So let's get to the top performers, and I really want to, like we know how crazy things are in hospitals right now. We're talking to all of our clients and members on a daily basis, and just so grateful they find time to talk to us at all. The idea that that the panelists have taken the time out of their busy days to both kind of get ready for this and also attend today, we're just endlessly grateful, because at the end, with great respect, nobody on this line wants to hear from me right now. They want to hear from you as to what are these lessons, what should we be applying. So let me thank all the panelists in advance, and then we'll step in to each one of these panels. So reminding everybody of these were the top 8, and this was the profile attached to them, and the dollar savings potential are not particularly big. And let's step into 2 of those hospitals. Grace, I'm hoping, is Grace on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Grace. Great to have you here. And Chris, I know that you're here, so from Kingston and north end of Toronto. I think we'll first we want to talk about how efficient these hospitals are, and then we want to talk about how much they've improved. And then, so you know, there's some method to this madness. We're going to segue then from there into the second panel, which is talking about how do you work your way up the benchmark chart, because Grace and Chris have done both. They're at the top of the chart, but they also are improving along the way. But the starting point with this, and Chris, I want to kind of kick off with you. So so my recollection is you are C5. So let me just go back. So is that right, Chris? Do you think you're C5?
I believe Michael said we're C4.
C4. Even better. Where are you here? Yeah. Yes, you are. Okay, so so we'll come back to a little bit of room to improve on base electric still, and the cooling electric is interesting. But let's step into that issue. You're in the top 8. What is it about Providence in terms of system design? So for the designers on the webinar, what should they know about what you're doing and what you've learned? And then we'll talk about how you've improved it further since. Give us an idea of what makes Providence special.
All right. Thanks, Ian, and welcome everybody, and thanks for joining the call today. I think this is a really great opportunity for us to learn from each other's experience and try to move the bar. I didn't prepare a lot for this. I wasn't sure what to expect, to be honest. Just a couple of thoughts that come to mind. The first one is, thinking back to when we were actually writing the performance specifications and the amount of time that we took to really look at benchmarking and trying to set an aggressive target but a realistic target. Because we want to go so far that it was going to be an impossible target for the project host to achieve. So I think that's just one point for folks who are early on in the stage, is you really need to take a hard look at that target that you set in the project agreement. As far as design goes, I think one of the big areas where I think we've been able to have some big wins is on the heat recovery chiller plant. And kudos to our partners from Johnson Controls, who really, I think, need to be commended for the work that they've done on our site. They've got a great team, both on site. They have a full-time energy resource who spends most of his days really with his finger on the pulse of the building, and when something doesn't look right, they're out there looking for opportunities to improve. I think that's a big reason why we've been able to achieve a lot of the savings that we have, is because they have that resource dedicated to that. I know with this type of model, it's hard for hospitals to specify the resources that need to be applied. It doesn't really fit necessarily with a performance type model, but I do think that that's something that has helped us to get to where we are today. And interestingly enough, as you were showing the results on the slides, Ian, I was texting back and forth with my site manager, and we've already got some pretty good ideas on where we're going to focus our attention over the next year to see if we can move up the charts on here from number 6 to number 1 or 2, hopefully next year.
Straight greens are good, Chris. It's but I got to warn you, Michael, that Michael, he keeps moving the goalposts every year, so it makes it a constant challenge. Let's move to Grace. Grace, you must be thrilled with Humber River and all the accolades that you've had. So Humber River is A1. It's clearly it's in the group of straight greens. It's at the top of the chart in terms of acute care hospitals, and we'll look in a moment as to how it's got even better in the past year and talk a bit about that. But talk a bit about targets, because we'll be coming back to that with Cliff and Laurie at the end. Talk about where do you think targets fit into kind of creating that dynamic between you and the facility management firm to keep, not only achieve what you've achieved already, but to keep improving? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I think for us, we also, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm a little bit not technology savvy. So yeah, for us, I think Laurie will speak a little bit more to this because he was involved in the early stage of setting the targets. We're pretty aggressive with our target, and at the very early stage, and sometimes there are doubts whether the target is even achievable. But I think the high target setting does drive a high performance under the contract. We struggle a little bit, at the beginning, but I've seen pretty significant savings, I think, since the end of 2018, since December.
Yeah, I'll show you those in just a moment. We've got that in Technicolor here.
Yeah, so at our design stage, our principle is green, lean, and digital. So energy performance has always been a very high on our agenda. And when we developed the PSOS, there have been various energy performance requirements throughout as a benchmarking principle throughout the design, throughout the PSOS. So such as take advantage of savings in energy by providing control over building environment conditions, etc. So we have energy is not, it doesn't just have its own provision, but it's blended in the overall design requirement.
And the project agreement, in terms, if you step back from the big picture, you mentioned the energy target, and clearly that, in the case of Humber River, has been a motivator. Are there any other features within the project agreement that have really helped or perhaps hindered the progress that you've made?
What do you mean other aspect of the project?
Is there anything within the project agreement when you're trying to work with JCI to make improvements that this clause gets in the way, or has the project agreement served you really, really well in terms of having everybody focused on the prize?
So we do have challenges in terms of working through the energy model. I think at one point there were some distraction. There were a lot of attention being put on how the energy model is being run and how the report is being done. We're still working through that, and we kind of, although we're still working through these issues, but there has been some focus on operation changes on the JCI team on the ground. So we have seen quite a bit of savings being achieved in the last year, 2019.
Yes, you have. Let's step across. So again, Humber River, again, it's been celebrated in each one of these events. Our hope with Greening Healthcare for this is to begin providing technical case studies on some of these kind of shining lights that are coming through. So the hospitals that made really big improvements, Humber and Providence on this panel here, right, Milton District, and Women's College, what becomes a really nice segue into the second one of these panels with Lauren. But these are the hospitals, again, where we would hope over time to put together case studies where at the technical end of things, the hospitals in the pipeline can look at those and learn from them and say, oh man, we could do that, we could do that, we could do this. So that's what we're hoping for as the ongoing process. But if we look at Humber River, you're absolutely right. So people involved with greening healthcare kind of get these charts. The blue dots are the monthly bills. The red dots are the weather normalized baseline. So in this case, it's 2015-16 that we're comparing against. So you can see in the early going on the electricity chart on the top left, how much improvement was made. And that improvement has reduced a bit as we believe greater use is being made of the heat recovery chiller. On the right-hand side, just look what happened to the gas over the last 2 years. So I remember a year ago, we were commenting on how 40 equivalent kilowatt hours per square foot for Humber River was extraordinary. Now you're running at 35, and Jason tells me you're still improving. So this reduction in gas consumption, Grace, I'm not sure if you're fully familiar, and we will dig in deeper with this with JCI, but this, I believe, is getting a hold primarily of your high performance central plant and getting it to deliver the performance it was designed for.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I'll defer that to Jason, but yeah, that's my understanding from the from our utility committee meeting.
Okay, so
yeah, we also, just to sorry interrupt, we have a question that's kind of relevant to this, and maybe Grace, you could probably touch on that. So there's a question around, is there any specific design features within the facility that enables these kind of level of performances? And I know from our experience working with Humber previously, some of the design features that we kind of envision is, like, for example, 100% outside air as one of them, and also heat recovery chiller, which is fully sort of operational right now with Humber River, and also they have enthalpy wheels on all those units. Anything else, Grace, you know as a design feature that kind of came out for you either through the RFP process or even during that process that enables these kind of high efficiency buildings for you from your perspective?
One thing that came to mind is the like the lighting schedule. We have automatic lighting sensors to synchronize the occupancy of the space. I think that also creates energy saving.
yeah, and I remember seeing charts of the Lutron control printout from the hospital, which tracks actually the overall watts per square foot of lighting.
Yeah.
And I think that was a great tribute. That the overall number was something like 0.3 or 0.4 watts per square foot, which was really, really good for fluorescent lighting at that time. And
Yeah.
you've got your smart windows as well, right?
Yes, we do.
So a few of those, and again, it would be great to document those further. Chris, picking up on this again, look what happened to your gas use, but somehow you managed to do that and use less electricity. What's going on there, man? This is Chris.
Sorry, I was just trying to get my my audio unmuted here. So yeah, so Johnson Control spent a lot of time looking at the operation of their heat recovery plant. So I believe that a lot of those savings, or most of those savings, are driven by that control optimization that they've been working on for the last year. It's exciting to see those. Actually, it's an impressive reduction.
It's
on the electricity side. Sorry, Ian?
Yeah, it's breathtaking. Yeah.
As far as the electricity savings, I don't have an exact answer for you on that one at this point in time, but I know JCI are always fine-tuning their system operations and looking for efficiencies where they can. We do have our biggest opportunity that's coming down the pipe, and we're not quite ready for implementation yet. We're still exploring some technical issues, but our current lighting system is primarily fluorescent lighting, and so we have a big opportunity there to do an LED conversion. We're just working through the business case now, but that should bring us down close to our target on base electricity, I think.
That sounds perfect. And just for kind of anecdotally, when I met with you and the JC guys there a year or so ago, really interesting stuff about managing the flow rates through the heat recovery chiller circuit due to the fact there were so many unit heaters and entrance heaters and with no control valves on them. And I believe JCI went through the whole facility and installed two-way control valves on a whole raft of, again, standalone unit heaters, entrance heaters, and so on, just to get the flow rate correct so that they could make the heat recovery chiller work properly. Does that sound right?
Correct.
Okay.
Ian, it's Laurie here. I just see a note from Kurt Monteiro from Smith & Anderson. He was mentioning the high efficiency enthalpy wheels that have a fairly high effectiveness. He's got here 90% or plus. I think that's been something that Humber and other projects have learned, that they've been pushing the efficiency of those wheels as they learn more about the HVAC systems.
Yeah, and the bonus there of the commitment that Humber River made to low static pressures and therefore low velocities, that my understanding is that the reduced velocity through the air handling system perhaps surprisingly increased the efficiency of those enthalpy wheels. So,
yeah, I think that's part of the equation. The low speed of the airflow is one thing, but it's a little more complex than that. I'm not an HVAC engineer, but I'm sure they could teach us a little bit about that.
yeah, and if we get to put the case studies together, hopefully those kind of stories will be available to everybody. So again, you see the profile of these big gas savings. Milton District, in some ways, over the past 12 months, has been the most noticeable. You can see just how much the winter gas consumption has come down here. So we're seeing base thermal come down, which is we believe is heat recovery chiller taking over that whole reheat load, which is usually coming from the boilers. But at Milton, the heating savings have been quite extraordinary during that period of time. So visually is there. So lots to learn from the best of the new hospitals, and those learnings will continue as this whole story continues to unfold over the years. Also, as a segue for Lauren into, and thanks to Chris and to Grace for talking a bit about the new hospitals, all of these things. It would be nice to do it for an hour, but we're kind of constrained within the time. But I think we got a good sense of what it is that made your facility special. Women's College is one that's not yet in that top group, but is moving very fast up the charts. Once again, you can see, and Lauren will talk in a moment, to how they've achieved these results. You can see electricity in the top left-hand corner declining rapidly over the past several months. You can see savings on the chilled water consumption, especially during the summer, the previous year, but also this most recent year, dramatic reduction in chilled water during the summer period. And you can see the reduction in steam over that period, where the last 2 months in there, that is the lowest steam consumption the hospital has ever seen. And once again, we'll ask Lauren in just a moment, but our understanding is that all of this is coming down to tuning and modifying and really working on understanding the performance of the central plant systems